In this episode, what we're going to be doing is we're going to make an object called the game manager. The game manager is going to track whether the game has started, and it's going to track our score, and it's going to track a few other things like that. It's a good idea not to put everything on our one single script, because then if we ever delete that object, you've lost all your progress and the game doesn't know what your score is or anything like that. So it's good to have it on a separate object that's not really part of the game. So what we first might do is I might just zoom the camera out a little bit more just so we can see a bit better. Make the ground a bit bigger. Move it down a bit. There we go. That's a bit better, just so we can see more of what's going on. Alright, so let's make that game manager object. Go up to object and go create empty. We'll type in here, give it a name, game manager. Set that to 0 and 0. Yep. So let's make a script for it. We'll call it, go right click, create C# script, game manager. Press enter, it'll open up MonoDevelop. Alright, so what we want to make is, we want to make a couple of variables to track what the game is doing at the moment. So for example, if we press play straight away, the fish just falls and dies, which is kind of, it's not a good way to start your game. You probably want to start off more like the fish just sits still, and then you press spacebar, and then he starts falling, and the beams start coming and stuff like that. So we might set his gravity to 0 for now. So just click on the fish and go to gravity, set that to 0. Now when we run the game, he's just going to sit there, which is kind of good because it means we can tell the game manager when we want the game to start. And we'll do that. We'll keep track of how that's working with some variables. So go up to here and type in public bool. We'll call this game running. So a bool is just a thing that basically it can only be in two states. It can be true or false. So game running can be true or game running can be false. That's it. It can't be a number or a letter or anything. It's only true or false. This is really cool because it means we can kind of ask the game questions like, is game running set to true, or is game running set to false, or is power up set to true, or is anything like that. They're really good for sort of asking questions of the game. So we'll make another one. We'll call this one game over, and that's going to be set to true when they've collided with the ground, for example. Now when we say, if we go down to update on the game manager and say if input dot get key down, key code space, and then what we want to say is, if they press the space bar, is the game running? If it isn't, you can do this by saying else. Then you just do more brackets, more of the curly brackets. So is game running? If yes, this will happen. If no, this will happen. I want to say, is it game over? If no, do this. So if the game isn't running, the game hasn't started, and it's not game over, we'll set game running to true. So when they press the spacebar, if the game hasn't started and it's not game over, set game running to true. We also want to do, what else would we add to this? We'd also want to change the fish's gravity, I think. So we'll make a reference to the fish so that we can talk to it. We'll say public fish control FC. Now if we save that and jump back into Unity, click on your game manager object and drag that script over, or you can click the add component button, whichever works. You'll notice there's that FC that we just typed in has now come up with a little bar that says none fish control. If we drag our fish in, you'll see it says fish, which is good. It means the game manager can now talk to the fish and back and forth. And you will see we've also got some little tick boxes that say game running and game over, and you can tick those, which is cool. So what we want to say is, if we go back to our script now and say FC, so on the line that says if game running, else if game over. Where it says game running equals true, go down there and say fc dot get component rigid body 2D dot gravity scale equals 2, and then put a semicolon. Now you'll see that if we save this and we run the game, now the game is going to start when we press spacebar. It'll wait for us. The fish also jumps, which is kind of interesting. We should make sure that they aren't, that the game waits until the game is started before you can jump. Now if we run the game, now if we run the game, there we go, the game waits for us to press space before it starts. And you'll also see that the game manager now checks the box game running, which is really cool. It means that's only going to happen once. And if we check the game over box, we can check if the game's ended. We could probably add that code in right now, actually. If we go back to monodevelop, we click on fish control, where it says on collision enter 2D, if the thing that it's hitting is solid, we say destroy this object, but we should also say, just before that, game manager, we need to be able to talk to the game manager first. Alright, that's easy to do. We'll go back to the game manager, and we'll type in public static game manager instance. And then what we'll say is void awake brackets instance equals this. And this means now the fish should be able to talk to the game manager quite easily by saying game manager dot instance dot game over equals true. There we go. If you save that, make sure to save both of those scripts and click run. Now when we start the game, that's all well and good. Second hit something, game over crashes. That's good. Well, the game doesn't crash, but it freaks out because it doesn't really know where the fish controls went. We just deleted our fish. But that's okay. As long as we don't talk to it anymore, the game should be fine. Cool. So we have our game manager object in the game, and it's keeping track of things for us. What we might want to add now is we'll put in the underground part of our level, which is just the part that scrolls along to give the impression that your fish is moving. Because as you'll notice, as the fish itself isn't really moving forward. I think we're just going to give the illusion that it's moving forward, just because it's easier than actually making the fish move around. And there's no need for it, really. So the way we'll do that is we'll take the ground that we've already got and go duplicate. And we'll call this underground. In assets, we'll make, for this new ground object, we'll make a new material. We'll call this underground. And for the underground material, we'll pop that straight onto the underground object. Move it down a bit more. Maybe make it -7 or 8. Make it a bit taller. About there. Actually, maybe we'll make it. I wonder if we can set it to about here. Go 2. There we go. So make sure that it just fills in that bottom part of the screen. Then we'll click on the underground material, and we'll go albedo, click the little button next to that, and pick underground. We also want to set this one to unlit by going shader, standard, unlit, texture. Wow, okay, that's it's very stretched out. If we click on the underground box here, if you click on the underground texture, make sure that make sure that this texture type is set to texture, and we want the wrap mode to be repeat. This is really important, this part, because otherwise the texture will look kind of horrible. Click apply. Now on our underground, we can click on the underground shader here, on the underground material, sorry, and we want to click, set the tiling to 4 or maybe even 8. That looks pretty good. Ooh, no we don't. We want, for Y, maybe make that, maybe just make that 1. I think that looks alright. What do you think? I think maybe we'll set that to 0.5. 0.5 looks cool. See, now this is the part that's really important next. See how we've got this this variable that says offset x, and if we drag that along, see how it kind of looks like we're moving past the ground if you drag it slowly in one direction? That's the trick that we're going to use to make sure that the game looks as though we're traveling along. And I think that is actually how the original Flappy Bird worked as well. The bird isn't really traveling somewhere. The pipes and the ground is what moves past him. It's just a lot easier for computers to think about things that way. I know it's not as fun as him actually moving along, but with computers, we sort of got to take a few shortcuts sometimes. And it works the exact same way. It looks the same. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to make a little script here that does a little bit of mathematics to move that offset along. Maybe just follow along with what I'm typing for this part, or you can copy and paste it. I'll make sure that we've got it on the same page as this video, and you could copy that if you get stuck. Otherwise, just try and follow along with what I'm typing, because this part might get a bit complicated. So I'm going to go create new C# script. We'll call this texture offset. And press enter to open it up. So for this I want to have, public vector 2 called offset. I have public material, this matte, and then we'll have a public bool called moving. In the start we'll say matte equals get component renderer dot material. And then under update I'll say if moving offset equals plus equals, let's see if this works, new vector 2 minus 0.01 0. Then we'll say matte dot set texture offset underscore main text offset. I think that's going to work. Then if offset dot x is greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1, offset equals new vector 2, sorry, 0, 0. Sweet. Alright, that might look a bit confusing, and it might not even work. Let's try it out. Drag that component. Make sure, once you've got that all done and saved, drag that onto the underground object. Now if we run our game and tick moving, that's cool. Alright, it works. Oh, it's going the wrong direction though, I think. So if we go back here, go back into MonoDevelop and take out the minus. Make sure to save that. Let's try that again. That's better. You notice here it gets to 1 and then it goes back to 0 again, which means we get this nice loop. That's cool. Okay, so what we want to say now is we'll go into the game manager. We'll have to have a reference to that script, so we'll go public texture offset to, say to.moving equals true. Now if we save that and run our game, when we press the spacebar, nothing happens. Because we didn't fill in the reference. So remember when we drag the fish onto fish control, we need to do the same thing here. So drag underground onto TO. Now when we press the spacebar, there you go. Small and simple, but it works. Cool. So that's it. That's all we really need to do for now. I'll keep adding to this in the next video. We'll probably start adding the pipes in, which is the essential part of Flappy Bird, and we'll have pretty much the start of a sort of finished game. Catch you then.